Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of House of the Dragon by Story Archives. I'm your host, Mario Busto, alongside...
The other host, Zachary Newton. Welcome back.
We're back with episode 5, titled Regent, in an episode where multiple people want power at once. Starting with Daemon, who's tripping balls still, and Harrenhal. Hey, by the way, before we get started here, Zach, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. We're a little bit delayed on the episode recording this week because yesterday was the European Soccer Championship and the Copa America finals. I know you don't necessarily care too much about the footballing world, but it was mandatory watching in my household. So
all right.
We're past that. We're here a little delayed Monday, but we're bringing you guys the episode. Don't worry, we got you, and yeah, might as well get into it, huh?
Yeah, let's do it. Good episode. I do think that I'm kind of maybe guessing a little bit of things right. I think I was calling out in last episode that it felt like Daemon was kind of trying to prepare his own army. And we definitely got a lot more of that in this episode. I don't know if that's really going to kind of actually come through, but at least in the state of tripping balls, he does not seem to want to rule by Rhaenyra's side. He wants to be equal in power at a bare minimum.
I was kind of spot on where I thought this episode was going to be. I thought it was going to very much be the aftermath of Rhaenys' death and how everybody else is internalizing that, and just kind of like the repercussions of the Battle of Rook's Rest. And that's kind of what it is. There's maybe a couple of things that happened that I was not anticipating. Probably number one being Aemond being named Regent almost immediately. I thought that was kind of going to be like a sort of longer process of struggling for power. Perhaps maybe the news of him betraying his brother and very much usurping Aegon, or not, taking him out, really. I mean, he's the one who put him in the condition he's in. And so much for the theory about Targaryens being immune to fire. I don't know what's up with Daenerys being able to just be immune to fire in Game of Thrones.
All her clothes burnt, but
Aegon doesn't have that same Targaryen gene because he is burnt to a crisp. And I actually kind of got off slightly easy considering he fell about, from 1,000 feet and seemed he was cooked in that Valyrian steel armor of his.
Dude,
like that,
imagine...
they cooked him. They cooked him. It's like searing metal on your skin. I'm surprised the skin didn't like peel off. Yeah, that's what I was really hoping I would not have to see.
Yeah, they had like a scalpel or something, like the Grandmaster or Maester, was basically like scraping the skin off to try and, I think, prevent that from happening. But yeah, I mean, just imagine falling a few feet off of your horse. Like, that's bad enough. Like, this is falling thousands of feet with a freaking dragon. Well, I don't know how he's not dead, but
Sunfire obviously shielded him somehow.
Somehow, but still, I mean, like, it's like riding an elevator on like 1,000-foot drop. I mean, it's going to shield you, but it's going to hurt like shit.
Well, he's got to have some immunity to fire, right? You would think, because he did take a Dracarys straight to the face. So there's got to be maybe some element of fire immunity. I don't know. It's definitely not Daenerys level, though.
No.
From what we can see. But who knows? Maybe it's like more of a in-the-moment miracle thing, because we have seen miracles occur in Game of Thrones. For example, Jon Snow coming back to life. So perhaps Daenerys being immune to fire was one of those one-off type of prophetic moments in Game of Thrones that we see every once in a while. So yeah, maybe that happened.
Could have been. I feel like there's got to be some immunity there.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Aemond more, but we can get into it a little later. I kind of have a hot take on the whole Aemond King situation. But let's get back to kind of just the overall general aftermath of Rhaenys' death, who, quite honestly, was probably my favorite female character in the show. So that's a major loss. It's shaken up everybody's world for the most part here. No one more than Corlys. I mean, if you think about Corlys, he has lost so much in the last season and a half of House of the Dragon. I mean, he's lost his daughter. He thinks he's lost his son. which means that he's also lost his heir because Luke was supposed to be the Lord of Driftmark, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now he's lost his wife, and this one was kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back, even though he does find his sense of purpose at the end of the episode, or towards the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
He very much realized that all the riches, all the power, all of the glory of, his Hall of Nine, even that he's sitting in, it's empty, right?
Yeah.
He looks on it and he very much leaves it and goes towards the harbor again. That's when he's talking to Bela, and she's saying, I wonder what it was like when you had kings and lords dining in there, coming to see you,
Yeah.
And he sort of realizes, and she makes the comment that he did it all for her, that everything that he has is kind of nothing without his family.
Mm-hmm.
And so Corlys is kind of in this in-between place where I was wondering going into this episode if he was going to turn his back on Rhaenyra, but I think he's at a point where he's lost so much for her.
There's no going back.
Yeah, that to turn his back on her would also be kind of
disrespectful.
Disrespecting his wife's legacy as well, right? I mean, she gave her life to the cause of putting Rhaenyra on the throne, so I think he's pretty much down to do the same at this point. Yeah. Unless Rhaenyra takes some crazy turn, but I don't foresee that occurring.
I don't foresee that occurring either. And I mean, he did seem like a wild card for a little bit, especially in this episode with the aftermath of Rhaenys' death. But I fully think that he's going to take the offer of being the hand here, and he's still going to be on Rhaenyra's side. At least that's my opinion. I think that's definitely what's going to happen. I cannot see him flipping to the Greens.
Oh, he's very much needed because they really make it a point of there's a million opinions going around in the Black Council, and Rhaenyra really doesn't even know which direction to head in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's got Sir Alfred questioning her at every moment, and then she's got her other guys at the table who are also questioning her at every single turn. She doesn't really have that person like a Corlys who comes in the previous episode and shuts everybody up with just the presence of walking into the room. So she needs that kind of steady hand by her side, especially while Daemon is off doing who knows what. I mean, in this episode, he's already making people call him king.
And not king consort, I think is the way you would say it. Just
well,
king.
It's hilarious because the actual humor of the show really comes from Daemon. There's no other character in the show who brings an element of humor besides Aegon. Also would bring humor into it, but the two comedic reliefs in the show are definitely Daemon and him. Nothing funnier than Daemon, as they put in the Inside the Episode segment at the end. He's approaching everything like trying to hammer, into a square peg, right? The scene where he's trying to get the Brackens to bend the knee and he pretty much threatens them with dragon fire. It's like his approach to everything is power. It's the hammer and sickle type of thing, power and order to whatever he needs. And it just doesn't work with these very old style religious wars going on in the Riverlands between the Brackens and the Blackwoods. You have one side, worships the new gods, one side worships the old gods, and the Brackens would rather die than bend the knee to Daemon, who probably makes a mistake in bringing their arch rival to the peace talks, right?
Huge mistake.
Yeah. But I just found that scene hilarious where it cuts from the Bracken guy pretty much calling his bluff and saying, like, we'll take the dragon fire. And then it's just him on a rock saying, I did not think they would be this eager to die. And so there's a dynamic going on in this episode where we see good diplomacy on Rhaenyra's side. Jace specifically is a diplomat. And then you see Daemon, who's a failed diplomat and maybe has to come to the realization that he's great on the battlefield. He's great as an enforcer in a sense, right? But he's not great as a diplomat. He very much approaches things from this kind of entitled, I'm a Targaryen lord, you must bow down to me type of approach. And I don't think that works in every scenario.
Yeah, not a good politician or anything like that. No, he does seem to think that power is the move for everything. And this is yet again another example of how his plans blow up in his face. We had all of the Riverlands show up and just basically say like, hey, we're not dealing with you. Like, this was just ridiculous. I mean, he basically, sent people off on like a secret mission to go slaughter people. pillage their villages? Like,
Yeah,
what was
yeah.
it?
Fresh off of him being in grief about being accused for killing his nephew,
Yeah.
he goes off and sends the Blackwoods to essentially go murder women and children or kidnap women and children in the Blackwood village, right?
Yeah.
Also, they raided their temples. They desecrated their holy places, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it ain't going well for Daemon and Harrenhal. Although I do wonder if there's going to be a bigger shit show come to play in Harrenhal because of some of Jace's actions. Because I just don't trust the phrase yet. I'm still a little scarred from a certain wedding. So,
just a little bit, yeah.
But you speak about Daemon being a bad politician. Let's talk about people who are typically good politicians, but I think even all of their kind of trickery has backfired on them because Cole and Sir Gawain come back marching in with Melis's dragon head into the city, and they're expecting it to be this statement of victory as they sneak Aegon's body in one of those wooden crates.
Yeah.
But what they don't really have a good pulse on is that the people of the city see this as a black omen, right? They see this as a sign that not only are these people who they thought were gods untouchable, are they able to be killed, right? But what kind of backlash are they going to get from Rhaenyra? They're probably expecting some serious, fire and blood, as Bela said in this episode.
Yeah, I would be expecting it too, to be completely honest. And part of me's a little surprised that Rhaenyra didn't send some dragons off to go attack Vhagar at this point, but I kind of
we gotta talk about that. We have to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, it seems like a good opportunity, but also this is like being at a poker game before the river and going all in and just like you better freaking win that battle, because if Vhagar doesn't go down, you got nothing. You literally have nothing. Like, you have babies.
We talked about this in the previous episode, and unless you're in the camp that believes Vhagar would have caught up to her, Rhaenys had 2 opportunities to escape back to Dragonstone after Aegon had already fallen off his dragon.
Agreed.
To go regroup everybody. Yeah, sure, you probably would have lured Vhagar to Rhaenyra in Dragonstone, right? But at the same time, it would have been all in right there, 2 or 3 dragons. But we knew that she was going to die. We knew that they couldn't take out Vhagar. Otherwise, there's no House of the Dragon season 3. So it couldn't happen so quickly. But speaking of Melis and the kind of omen, the bad omen that's going on there.
Yeah.
There's this question of what the hell exactly happened in that battle that everybody's trying to get to the bottom of. And everybody pretty much knows without saying or confirming that Aemon had a hand in Aegon dying. But that right now is not public information. The only person who seems to absolutely confront Aemon or have the courage to do it is Helena, who, although she's kind of spaced out and seems kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? She's kind of, I mean, first and foremost, she's still traumatized from her kid being killed. But she has these moments of clarity where she's almost prophesying something. And to see her in the throne room when Aemon's looking at the throne, very coveting the throne, very much enjoying the heck out of it. She asks him the key question: was the price worth it? Was it worth the price? And so she knows that Aemon had a hand in, or is the reason Aegon is in critical condition.
Yeah. I think that blame is maybe a little 60-40. I'd put 60 of that on Aemon and the rest on Aegon. But yeah, it is interesting. It's kind of weird also thinking about the fact that they're all brother and sister.
We might be able to put more blame on Aemon because, like, even more than 60%, because like, how would things have played out if for those weeks that he was plotting with Cole, he had involved his brother in the plans? How would it have played out? Would it have been as reckless? Aemon wouldn't have had he wouldn't have had the get out of jail free card of torching his brother if his brother had known the plans, right? Because then it's not so much of a secret. Instead of him and Cole being the only 2 people who knew that they had Vhagar lying in wait to kill one of their dragons. So Aegon doesn't die if they're not so secretive about everything. And yes, he has been a king that just cannot be taken too seriously. At the same time, he hasn't been completely reckless aside from the rat catchers thing, right?
Well, that was pretty stupid.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean. Like he hasn't run off to battle, or he hasn't.
But he's tried.
Yeah,
he has tried, and I hear your point, but I think if he were involved, the plan wouldn't have been as good as it was.
yeah.
Like the plan would have been fine if Aegon didn't show up, and Aemon was just being opportunistic. He saw the opportunity there. He took it. Easy to kind of conceal that one. Well, aside from Sir Kristen and Cole seeing you, but I don't know. I just think I think Aegon. I think he's just a little too foolish, a little too hot-headed. This isn't the first time he's tried to run into battle, just dragons blazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably won't be the last. Like I don't think he's dead. Like I feel like we're seeing like Anakin Skywalker burn alive and come back as Darth Vader or something here. I feel like he's gonna come back and just be a stronger individual. I wouldn't say more intelligent, but maybe a little more strategic with the way that he goes to approach and attack the other side.
I don't see a single scenario where Aegon comes back to become king again. I think that Aemon, there's no way Aemon allows him to come back. In fact, I think Aemon probably puts a pillow over his head and just ends it, to be honest with you. I don't see it occurring. The only way Aemon is stopped is if Alicent just knows he's going to try to do it and decides to like sleep in Aegon's room or something to make sure that he doesn't do it. But yeah, no, I can't imagine it. He even has the dagger on his waist now, which is hilarious to me because we've seen Alicent pouring through these history books looking for the answer of Aegon's dream, confirmation that she was wrong about how she interpreted Viserys's dying moment, right? And the answer is so close. It's like it's just a conversation near a fireplace with Aemond away from clarity for her. Now, the question with Alicent is how much is she regretting her decision of putting her kid on the throne? Because now she's arguably put the realm in such a dangerous place with Aemond, who, here comes my hot take, I don't think is a bad king. I think right off the bat, he makes two great decisions. Burn the blockade. We know that's coming next episode. That has to occur next episode. So I think we get another dragon fight next episode, probably. Or if it's not next episode, it's the following. And he's going to cut down the rat catchers. So I do wonder if Aemon's going to be a horrible king. I think he's so well prepared to be king. Yeah. And I also think there's kind of a stark contrast between the decisive leadership of Aemon, which eventually I think could turn into him being like a crazy totalitarian. But the flip side is Rhaenyra, who honestly, man, she's been a lame duck leader this entire war so far. She's been super indecisive.
She's just as bad as Viserys. Like, it's just Viserys 2.0.
You're 100% right. That's a great point. She is her father. She's literally her father. She cannot make up her mind on shit. I mean, she's a little better than Viserys. Viserys was damn near like, when will this guy die moment type of thing. But he does have his redeeming moment when he comes in like all skeletal and doubles down on Rhaenyra being his heir. But aside from that, Rhaenyra has been a lame duck. She doesn't know who to believe. She's been keeping everybody stagnant. Just nobody's taking any action at all. She's responding rather than, orchestrating and strategizing. And she kind of has that identity crisis as a leader, right? She feels like her hands are tied behind her back. She's kind of having a very much, oh, woe is me moment where she says, my father never put a sword in my hand. He didn't train me for this, right? And she's right. He didn't. So she needs to figure out what is her place in it. And I think it's diplomacy. It's her understanding of history and the houses and all that. Mm-hmm. And it's this grand idea she has at the end of, that Jace has at the end of the episode to, I don't know how this idea did not occur to them more quickly, to get more riders for their dragons. They have apparently, and I didn't know this because I'm not a dragon historian of Game of Thrones, but they got 2 full-grown dragons that are bigger than all their dragons in Vermithor and Silverwing that are just chilling in the dragon pit pretty much. Yeah. And they need riders. I mean, you kidding me? I would have a King Arthur Sword in the Stone competition to see who can ride the dragons. Who wants to be a dragon rider type of thing, and just invite the whole realm to go be a dragon rider. It'd be the greatest reality show of all time.
No, 100%. I agree that it's surprising it took this long for them to have the mind-blowing realization that they should probably find somebody that can ride these dragons.
We should probably utilize these dragons, right?
I will say though, I wasn't expecting the whole like there's got to be a lot of people now that have our bloodline if you go back, centuries. So let's go find those randos like that. I don't know who on earth is going to be picked.
Well, it just doesn't seem
these dragons.
It just doesn't seem that Jace really bought the history. He seems to kind of see through the Targaryen history and thinks it's kind of BS that they're the only ones who can ride dragons. We heard an example in this episode that dragons very much have a will to choose their rider. In the little anecdote we got between Rhaenyra and Baela, where Baela mentions the story about how Daemon was jealous of Rhaenys because Meleys chose her as her rider. Right?
Yeah.
Daemon actually tried to conquer and tame Meleys as the dragon because it was the biggest and fastest dragon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Meleys kept bucking him off, so she wanted no part of Daemon being her rider. So if that's the case, then these dragons can choose non-pure-blooded Targaryens to be riders as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine.
If we saw Jon Snow, did Jon Snow ever ride a dragon? He did ride a dragon.
Jon Snow rode a dragon. Yeah, but he's also, part of that lineage too.
He is, but he's not full-blooded Targaryen.
He's not full-blooded. The Night King also rode a dragon, though I don't think that's fair. It's like riding a zombie.
Well, it's not out of the running that the Night King could also be a Targaryen. So, that's not.
I really want to see like a story of like the First Men or something. Like I really want like some
dude. I mean, listen, I started rewatching Game of Thrones from the beginning. Well, not from the beginning, right after Ned's head is chopped off. Because I can't do the whole. I can't do the whole.
It's like an emotional roller coaster. You love them, and then you're just like, oh well.
I damn near can't even watch where I'm at now because you're gonna get attached to Rob again.
Yeah,
but
when you loved Rob,
can we just finalize this petition? I'm sorry. Everybody kind of beats, like a lot of the Game of Thrones creators and podcasters kind of beat around the bush sometimes about how bad the season got, like how bad the trajectory of the show became. Can we please just give Game of Thrones to Ryan Condal and just like, I don't know. Hey, look, I feel bad for the actors almost.
Yeah.
But I've been watching YouTube compilations of their reactions and they can say what they want and get mad at fans who are demanding a remake. And I know it's, it is what it is. But hey, their reactions tell it all. I saw Kit Harington's reaction. I saw the guy who played one of the knights. You see Daenerys, Emilia Clarke's reaction to it. Everybody kind of has that same reaction. So Charles Dance, who plays Tywin Lannister, you see his. All of them had a just a jarring reaction to it. So, anyways, that's my soapbox for this evening.
Okay, good one to stand on.
So yeah, with that point being made about Jon Snow riding the dragons, we know there's a bunch of Targaryen bastards out there. Supposedly the Tarleys have some. Supposedly there's a family called the Mallisters. I've never heard of them before. But I expect by next episode, we're going to see just like hundreds of people being brought lining up. And look, they have been egging on all season for the return of, what's the name of Laenor's dragon? Sea Smoke? Something like that?
Yeah, I believe it's Sea Smoke. Pretty sure it's Sea Smoke.
They have been foreshadowing that one of Corlys's bastard children is going to ride that dragon. So I'm assuming it's either going to be Alan or Adam, which we finally get the name right. We've been calling Adam Alex all season. So there's that.
Oh well. I'm assuming Corlys will also probably try to make his
Why don't we try to put Corlys on a dragon? Why don't we put Corlys on a dragon? He's part Targaryen.
Corlys is not a dragon rider kind of guy.
But he's got some Targaryen. So. He's got some Targaryen blood in him. Just might as well try it.
I can't see him on a dragon. I mean, I can only see him in the sea. Like he's like a pirate. Like he's glued to a boat.
Yeah, I guess, but it would be great if he could just kind of command the navy from dragon, from a dragon.
Oh
that would be kind of great. Do you think they bring back what's her name, Rhaena from the Vale? to take over. Maybe she flies the smoke. I don't see her staying
I
in
don't
the
see
Vale.
that.
I don't see her staying in the Vale the whole time though. I just can't picture that.
I mean, who knows? She could come back at the end of the season or like in season 3 or something like that. I don't think she's going to be riding a dragon into battle.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. What do you think of the whole? There was like a theme in this episode of like the disgruntled, disregarded women on the council thing going on. Rhaenyra, there's even the line from Sir Alfred who says, the gentler sex, they just do not know how to, he does that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't bother me as much as the long shot on Alicent, making the whole Regent nomination about Alicent. And I'm sure it's gonna matter in the future, but I felt like I wanted to see Aemond in that scene. Like I wouldn't have minded a cutaway to Alicent, but the entire scene where Aemond finally takes Aegon's seat and starts barking orders.
Yeah.
You get that long, slow push in on Alicent, who's having like a meltdown.
Yeah, the words start getting muffled in the background and everything too.
Yeah. What'd you think of that whole bit?
I mean, I kind of get it from her perspective. I feel like she's afraid of the decisions that she's made and the consequences that there's still to have. Like I think she's afraid of her children. She seems like it most of the time. So like, I could imagine I would want to be in control a little bit and have that power to try and do what I thought was right. But
well, it's kind of funny. I mean, they usurped Rhaenyra, and then you want to put yourself, another woman, on the throne. Like, you know what I mean? You don't, you put Aegon on the throne, or you tried to, or you did put Aegon on the throne because of, this is the proper lineage. He's a man. This is the tradition of the kingdom, right? And then now you want to bypass that and bypass the right order of things, which is to go to Aemond and for you to become regent or queen regent, whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that to be like
self-serving a little bit. I mean, like you're right. Like it is something that she's trying to do out of order. But again, I think she's trying to do it because like this whole season, she seemed afraid of Aemon, and like. I mean, rightfully so. Like, I think I agree with you in that Aemon could be a good leader. Like, he's somebody that can command the people, and he's very intelligent and very strategic. I don't think he would be like a good king or anything like that. He's not a beloved. Like, I think this is the kind of guy that would go and reconquer this, the Seven Kingdoms or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think he stops. Pretty much, I think he just tries to become Aegon the Conqueror, right?
Yeah.
Which is probably what Daemon would do too.
Probably, except for the fact that Rhaenyra is a very good counterbalance. Probably the best he could have.
He ain't listening to her. He's not. If
not
he
right
actually
now,
does,
not right now. But if you look at the two characters, though, you have Daemon, who's very much like Aemon. Yes, he's a hothead. He's always go. He's the hammer. And then you have Rhaenyra, who's the exact opposite of it. So it is a good combo. But it like. I don't know how well they're gonna navigate those marital waters and king and queen power struggles there.
Yeah, let's save that for last. Because that's definitely the most interesting bit on the show right now is the stuff going on in Harrenhal.
Yeah.
Lastly, on Aemond, I think this is probably the last point I have. He's kind of crossed the Rubicon here, in the sense that he's already killed his brother, pretty much. Or attempted to kill his brother twice. If Cole doesn't show up, he probably kills him while he's laying down there in the forest.
I do think he would have killed him there.
So if he crossed that Rubicon, he's already crossed that dark part of his soul. He's already thrown that part of his soul out that would kill his own brother. I don't think there's much more to throw out if he's willing to kill his own mother and sister. He will kill anybody at this point. So the fact that he would kill his own brother means that he would kill anybody in that room who decides to kind of stand against him. And he essentially is writing a giant nuclear arsenal, so you can't tell him shit. I mean, it's pretty much at this point, do the people conspire against him who are in that kingdom? And at that point, they would have to turn towards Rhaenyra, but I don't foresee that happening. And the build up for a giant Aemon battle is just brewing, man. Just brewing.
Yeah, I do think that Aemon is probably the most powerful person in the Seven Kingdoms at this point.
100%.
literally has the largest dragon there is.
100%.
And now he's King Regent, or whatever you'd call that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about kind of like the approaches from here now, strategically from the Black Council. We can kind of wrap up Rhaena real quick. The Vale's not happy that they got 2 baby ass dragons over there defending the Vale.
Yeah.
So they're gonna need a bigger Vale, not a bigger Vale, a bigger dragon.
They might need a bigger Vale.
They might need a bigger Vale to hide themselves from the rest of the kingdom. Anyways,
yeah,
Vale needs a Vale. They're gonna need a bigger dragon, or I think that their allegiance might be a little bit soft, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But let's talk about what's going on right now. You have Jace, who's fed up with the stagnancy, just the lack of action from her mother, and just the fact that he's been shielded. And he calls it out to his bride to be. He says, "Listen, my mother is eager to send you out to go fight, to go scout, to go do whatever she needs, but she will not send me out." And at a certain point, he does need to risk it, and so does Rhaenyra. Right? At a certain point, they will have to take risks. So, kind of like Daemon chopping wood in the bottom of Harrenhal for some reason.
Yeah.
He's getting his hands dirty with the people because he wants to be known as somebody who got his hands dirty to get his throne. So Jace makes a unilateral decision without Rhaenyra's counseling, without anybody's counseling, seemingly, and meets with the Freys, who control this bridge that connects the Riverlands. Essentially, he needs this bridge for the Stark soldiers, the Greybeards. So there's Cregan Stark, or what's his name?
It's Cregan.
Called them. He needs them for that, for them to cross the bridge. And he kind of cuts to the chase. He says, "Hey, what do you Freys want?" They want Harrenhal. So how does that come to play? Is that like, I feel like that's either the biggest diplomatic W possible, or it's the biggest L that they can possibly have, because you have Daemon over there. I'm assuming you're going to have Aemond go to Harrenhal pretty soon, if I had to guess. First, he has to take care of that blockade unless he wants the citizens to rebel against him, and they're screwed if that happens. But Harrenhal, I feel that that's just not something you can just give away like that if you're Jace. I know it's technically a free castle right now. I know technically Larys has renounced Harrenhal and that there's no money over there according to Sir Simon Strong.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's for Jace to just be able to give away like that. Rhaenyra doesn't seem to have an issue with it, but how do you think that's going to play out? Does this end up making kind of like a battle between Jace and Daemon at a certain point?
Well, I definitely think there's some internal strife. I mean, Rhaenyra sent someone to go to Harrenhal to confront Daemon and see what's actually going on. So I still think Daemon is trying to build an army for himself more than he is for Rhaenyra. Does that mean he's going to turn on Rhaenyra and like kill her or something? No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I think he wants the loyalty. He wants the power. He clearly wants the throne, and he does not want to follow behind Rhaenyra. Like with that's clear. Maybe the visions are getting to him a little bit while he's over there and making this just seem a little more intense than it really is, but I don't think that's the case. In terms of like, could Jace just give away Harrenhal? I think he can. I mean, Daemon went and claimed Harrenhal for Rhaenyra. Like, it's hers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why he cannot give that away. Doesn't mean it's not going to piss off Daemon. It's going to piss Daemon off for sure. But I do think he has the ability to do that if he's speaking on the Queen's behalf here.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of Daemon, how much of these visions and this kind of mental state that he's in, how much of that is actually Daemon, and how much of this is the witch Alice Rivers? How much of it is she instigating by whatever means she has available to her? And is this going to be one of those things that maybe he leaves Harrenhal and kind of like gains his mind back? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
What do you think? Is this whole Daemon usurping as king a ploy in his own mind, or is this something that she has kind of brought to the forefront?
I think it's something in his own mind. Like, I feel like it's always been there. She's whatever she's doing, it's just kind of like bringing it out of him, or whatever Harrenhal is doing to him is kind of bringing it out of him. But I think that those feelings are always there. I don't know enough of like the lore around Harrenhal to be able to say like, well, I don't know, maybe it's just some dark force that's just like clouding his judgment or something like that. And like, if he wasn't there, he wouldn't actually follow through on this. But
yeah,
no, I think these are like his legitimate thoughts, his legitimate feelings. Like, I think this is him And I think he sees a massive opportunity where like there's complaints from the people everywhere to begin with. So it's not like you're going to upset a lot of individuals. There's already a war brewing. And you have one of the best, I mean, you got a really good claim to the throne, especially if Rhaenyra dies. Like, I think this is him. I don't think it's like something from the witch alone.
Are you willing to take a bet against me right now? Of
Depends on
whether
what the bet
Daemon
is.
does Daemon turn on Rhaenyra or not?
See, that's the thing. I don't think he's going to turn on Rhaenyra. I just think that he does not want to follow. Like, so I feel like there'd have to be an ultimatum given from Rhaenyra to Daemon. And I feel like at that point, the question would come down to, is he going to walk away again or is he going to kill her?
Okay, so you're not confident yet to bet against me because I don't think he's going to turn against her. I think eventually he kind of comes into the bullpen, you know.
Comes back and, you know, like serves his queen.
I think, I would hope that this whole scenario in Harrenhal, he realizes that he is just not a politician, and that there's a good reason why he was not. But who knows? You know, George R. R. Martin, just so you know, Daemon's like his favorite character in the entire, like in the history of all the stuff he's written. Daemon is his favorite because he is the grayest character in all of the Westeros lore, of all of the Game of Thrones lore. So they call him the Rogue Prince for a reason. That is the nickname for Daemon. He does what the hell he wants. He's the most interesting guy in the show because you just never know what the hell he's going to do. And Matt Smith is just terrific. The pacing of his lines, he's incredible. It's the role of his lifetime, in my opinion. You know, that's just kind of my take on that. Funny enough, there's kind of like a similarity. I don't know if I'm drawing a good one or not here, but Daemon says something to Sir Lord Willem Blackwood, which is, you know, certain things the crown cannot be seen doing, which is his order for him to go, you know, kill the innocents of the Brackens to make them bend the knee. Whereas Myseria says a similar thing to Rhaenyra, which is let others do for you what you cannot do for yourself. Right? So there's kind of a dual thing going on there. And while Daemon's is really negative, I do wonder if Myseria's is also going to be negative or if it's going to turn out positive, because Rhaenyra ends up sending Alinda out to King's Landing to relay a message from Myseria, who, I don't know how the hell she's getting her ravens or her info, but she has like up-to-date TMZ, you know, X type speed of news delivery, because she knows exactly how the people of King's Landing received the Dragonhead going through the city. And she wants to use the people. She wants to use propaganda to shape the way that people feel and think so that they rise up against these people and help Rhaenyra out. Yeah. To take the throne.
I mean, she seems very much like Lord Varys. He just always knew everything that was going on all the time in Game of Thrones. So we didn't know too much of him either.
Well, speaking of Master of Whisperers, I mean, Larys here is trying to survive at this point in the King. What do you think is going to happen with him? Because he pretty much backs away from Alicent in this episode 2 and supports Aemon's ability or Aemon's position as regent. I think was the smart thing to do, to be honest, for him.
Oh, I think it was smart for multiple reasons. Like I
too much dirt on Alicent.
Yeah, there's a lot of dirt there, but
he owns her in terms of the stuff he knows on her.
He does. Also, I agreed with the comments of like, look, she ruled in an era of peace. This is not a time for peace. Like for half the people, I think, want Aegon on the throne because he's not Rhaenyra. He's not a woman, and then you're gonna throw a woman back on the throne. Like, I feel like that's one way to lose your crowd base here. So I think that would have been foolish for them. I also think that Larys is just really trying to please whoever has the most power at all times. Like that seems to be his move. It was Alicent, and it was Aegon, and now it's Aemon.
I think him and Aemon would get along pretty well, to be honest with you. I think they would.
But they might. I tell you, it would be an interesting like chess game to watch the two of them playing.
Otto is sorely missed right now, my friend. Sorely missed.
You think he's going to come back? I feel like we're not done with him. I just don't know what his role is going to be.
I don't think it'll be in King's Landing, but we'll see him in Old Town. We have to still meet Daeron, which is the other son. And Daeron has a dragon too. So they're going to need Daeron over in King's Landing at some point. And we haven't even mentioned, Aegon says mummy, like mommy. He says, in this episode. So Aegon's going to wake up too. So they got to deal with that as well. They got to decide, are we going to let this guy be king? Are we going to kind of take it from him? Is he going to have a memory of what the hell happened on the battlefield? Is he going to wake up and say, hey, my brother tried to kill me? And that's going to eliminate Aemond right there if that news gets out. Because the biggest wild card in this situation right now is Sir Criston Cole. Is he going to have a return to any sort of morality and decency? Because you see in this episode, he's very tortured of what to do. And although he's covering for Aemond in this episode, I very much think that Sir Criston Cole eventually is going to turn and try to redeem himself in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if it's going to be immediately, but I just think eventually in this war, Aemond's going to take a turn towards something that not even Sir Criston Cole can get behind.
I could see that. There's a couple like parallels as we were talking through this of like characters that I feel like I'm seeing at least. One of them being Sir Criston Cole and Jaime Lannister. Like those two remind me a lot of each other.
Great point.
And then Jace actually reminds me a lot of Robb Stark.
Yes, he does, which scares me.
I know. I was sitting there watching the scene where he's talking to the Freys, and he's got his back to the camera. I'm like,
don't drink whatever.
What's going on here? Yeah, but it's very possible that Sir Criston Cole could, have a redeeming moment, but it's also very likely that I'll still think he's a piece of shit.
Well, the Freys look as weaselly as ever, so I mean,
they seem a lot nicer in this show than they do in Game of Thrones.
Really, I think they look like weasels. They say something, at a negotiation table. At a business meeting, you shouldn't be eating, so to speak, like when you're negotiating for the most part. And this guy's just pigging out at the table, the Frey guy there. So I don't know. It's just kind of like they're these, I don't know how to describe them. They're just not very likable people. Anyways, what else do I have to mention here? We're missing something. Okay, we end the episode with the great idea, which is the dragons. We've really only had one major battle in this season so far, correct?
That on screen, yeah. On screen.
Yeah, we're not going to count the Burning Mill battle. Yeah. We're not. That is the biggest battle that occurred this season, but it didn't happen on screen. We don't know anybody from those sides, so they probably wanted to save the budget on that.
I would imagine so.
But we've had one battle. I don't think we end this season with just the Rook's Rest battle. I'm assuming we get two more, if I had to guess.
Yeah, maybe two.
How many episodes are in the season?
That's a great question. Let's see if we can find that out.
I'll look it up.
10.
10. No, 8. You're wrong.
8, really?
Yeah.
Why is this telling me 10? You're right. That's weird.
It's 8.
Yeah, so we got 3 more left.
3 more to go. So shit has to hit the fan, in these next 3 episodes. We're getting a season. I think this probably goes to 4 seasons, if I had to guess, this series. Although it feels like a 3-season show. But
I have a thing with even numbers. I would prefer it to be 4.
Well, listen, I don't want another Game of Thrones scenario. Let them take 5 seasons if they need it. Just don't do what they did to me in Game of Thrones, what they did to the world. 5 episode seasons. I mean, that's ridiculous. With so much more material, so many more storylines than this has to close up. Oh, good Lord. I'm telling you, it's all. I've opened the wound. Because I've gone back to rewatch this stuff. So
it's fresh.
Anyways. All right, let's bring this to an end here. Great episode, great setup episode. I think episode 6 is gonna be crazy again. I can't wait for it. Every day or every week between these episodes, I'm just kind of like not paying attention to the calendar, so that it just feels like we're getting closer to Sunday because it's just been fantastic. So,
yeah.
All right.
I've been doing the same. Alrighty. Let's hop into some categories. Favorite character of the episode?
Corlys.
Okay.
I think Corlys. I mean, I feel like it's always Daemon.
Yeah, like Daemon is like calling out Thomas Shelby from Peaky Blinders. It's hard to hard to not just give it to him half the time. But
I'll say
Corlys is good.
I'll say Corlys and Aemond because I really do like Aemond too, to be honest.
Yeah, I like Aemond. If I wasn't gonna give it to to Daemon. I'd give it to Aemon.
Okay.
There wasn't really anybody else that jumped out at me quite too much.
I weirdly like Alice Rivers. Like I weirdly like her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what's up with her, but I feel like something has to go down there eventually.
Okay. How about favorite line of the episode?
There's two that immediately come to mind, but I'll go. Do you want me to say them both, or do you want me to just choose like a favorite?
You can say them both. One of them might be mine. I don't know.
One is Damon's comedic moment when he's sitting on the rock. He says, "I didn't think they would be so eager to die."
That is good.
That one. It was that one, and then it was Corlys giving Bela air of Driftmark, and she says, "I'm fire and blood. Whoever inherits Driftmark has to be salt and sea or sea and something like that." So that opens up the storyline for Corlys's bastard children.
Yeah, it does. Those are good. Those actually aren't the ones, or the one that I picked. Mine was when Daemon was in Harrenhal, and he got called prince, and he's like, "What do you call me?"
Oh, that's great.
He's
That's
like
a great
king
one.
consort. He's like, that last part seems irrelevant.
That last bit seems a bit unnecessary.
Yeah,
this is great. He's so good, man. He is just so good.
Phenomenal. All right, last category: favorite scene of this episode.
Favorite scene.
What
was the scene that I didn't want to come off the screen? You go first. Go ahead.
That's an interesting way to phrase it. The one scene I liked, I wouldn't say I didn't want it to come off the screen, was Aemon taking the throne. I like to see that. I'm glad that we're kind of getting a moment where he's finally like in that position of power that we've been let's be real, we've been pushing him towards this entire show. And he was able to get it without Aegon being dead. Aegon is at least not dead right now. So I thought that was nice. And then, the other scene, man, I didn't like, it wasn't like my favorite. I liked Jace kind of playing politics there. I like that, but I think it's really just like most of what happens at Harrenhal. Like I find those so interesting.
They're fascinating. It's like, that's why I phrase it that way, because I think that's one of the things in Game of Thrones that you have to bounce between character plots, and you just, sometimes there's a character that you just don't want to see come off screen because it's like, we only got 10 minutes with him this week, and that's kind of Daemon like every single week, right? Just because of you don't know if he's gonna burn people to a crisp. You don't know at any moment what's gonna happen there, and that's kind of the most interesting thing there. But it probably would have been the scene that you said when Aemon gets the ball from the middle of the table and becomes king in the table. But they made that decision to do that long take on Alicent, and it kind of took away from the scene for me. I wanted to see more of Aemon and the difference, because if it would have been a shot on Aemon, it would have been the opposite. It would have been like his blood kind of rising, like him getting, feeling this, like finally touching the chair, that probably would have been the opposite of the shot from Alicent, right?
It would have been very good if it was focused on Aemon as well. But I feel like
it was okay to do what they did. I think
it was okay. I think that the whole purpose of that was for us to also feel a little scared of Aemon, like Alicent is afraid of him. Sir Criston Cole seems afraid of him. Like he's so like paralyzed. He doesn't know what to do. Does he say something? Does he not say something? Because let's also not forget this. If Aegon dies and Sir Criston Cole has said something, Aemon will take the throne, and that will actually be his.
Yeah,
and he'll seek vengeance.
Yeah, for sure. So, it's gonna be interesting to watch.
Great episode. Any closing thoughts? I think we kind of covered a lot here, but
I think we covered just about everything that I can think of at the moment. Other news out there, other shows that we're watching. I'm currently going through Shogun on Hulu. Terrific show. I'm very busy with work. So if I actually had time to take on another show right now, I would probably be doing Presumed Innocent on Apple TV. I am up to speed on that as well. Shogun is terrific. I mean, it might be a show that we eventually do a pod for. The Bear season 3, I did drop a 1 episode recap for if you want to see my thoughts on that. You can go and check that out. And I'm gonna start a show on Apple TV soon called, I think it's called Sunny, with Rashida Jones, which was actually recommended by a listener. So stay tuned for all the stuff there. But just wanted to give a few recommendations out there. Definitely cannot recommend Shogun highly enough. It's as good as House of the Dragon. It's like
really
that. It's
up
that
there, huh?
Well, I love House of the Dragon and the Game of Thrones universe a little more than just about any other show out there, so I can't put it there. But quality-wise, it's definitely on par for sure.
Okay, for sure. I'll have to give it a watch. I've been watching a little bit of Presumed Innocent as well, but I'm just really into like all of these shows right now of what feels like old times. Just hundreds of men going to battle with swords. I'm watching Rome. It's the 2-season show on HBO, but I just finished season 1, so we'll see how long it takes me to get through the second one. I got through the first one pretty quickly.
Who's the leader of Rome? Where does the show pick up? Who's the leader?
So Pompey is the leader of Rome when the show picks up, and it basically picks up right around when Julius Caesar starts to return to Rome.
Okay. So he's returning from his campaigns.
Yeah. So like the whole show's, at least the majority of it seems to be very heavily focused around the Civil War, which is
what year? What year?
God, I don't know that. What was it like? I mean,
AD what?
A couple hundred BC, right?
Oh, they go to their BC.
I believe, Rome? Yeah, if I recall correctly.
Well, the Roman Empire is before and after. But what I'm trying to say is, where does the show line up? I'm assuming that would be BC if it's Julius Caesar. Let me see when Julius Caesar.
I looked it up a little while ago, and I don't.
Yeah, he died 44 BC.
Yeah, so it's like 100 years or so BC. But yeah, it's interesting. After having read the book The Civil War by Lucan, or Pharsalia, I think is what it was actually called. It's interesting to kind of like be like, oh, that is about to happen, and see it actually happen. So it's fun to watch. I think
the Roman Empire deserves an actual better show than that. Like, I mean, what is 2 seasons for the Roman Empire? I mean,
it seems really fixated on one thing, and it's just the Civil War. Like I could see there being so much more to produce about it.
They should do a 10-season epic. A 10-season Roman epic or some shit like that. They really should.
There would be so much to cover. I don't know how good the show is going to end either. Like, by the way, it's only 2 seasons, so that's got me a little nervous. I don't know if it was like an abandoned show, but
yeah, I'm pretty sure it got canceled. That's the reason it's 2 seasons. It has to be. Nobody just does. Who's going to do a 2-season show on Rome?
I don't know.
It's like another. There was another show that came out. I think it was a Viking show. I think it was a Viking show that came out that got canceled in 2 or 3 seasons as well. So yeah, I don't know. But I think it's interesting because there's so many parallels between the Roman Empire and if you think America's an empire, I mean think about it. It's not even close to how long Rome was around for, right? How long did the Roman Empire last?
Oh God, I like the show. I'm not a historian on it.
Lasted 500 years.
Wow.
No, 1,000 years. 753 BCE to 476 CE. Crazy.
That is crazy.
But 500 years probably as an empire, which is insane.
Well, because it was the Roman Republic before it was the empire, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how long it was there before that. Anywho,
all right, let's
thank you.
Round it out.
Thank you for listening to this episode of House of the Dragon by Story Archives. You can visit this podcast anywhere you find podcasts. You can visit us on YouTube at Soapbox Podcast Network. Visit our website at soapbox.house. Email us at contact@soapbox.house. And we do have a link in the description below for our newsletter.
Hey, by the way, Spotify allows for comments now. So finally they have allowed it. So comment on the Spotify podcast episode. I mean, I thought the polls were so stupid. It was like, that was not the feature to have. It should have been comments from the beginning.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they finally rolled that out. It's a great addition to the platform. And I mean, you know how often I've wanted to see just comments on our Spotify podcast, and it's just polls, and you can't respond to polls. So
it is very frustrating.
Yeah. Anyways, do that. we'll see you on the next episode of House of the Dragon. And we hope you have a great week. Peace.